There's something else about Morgan Rielly that I think gets understated a little bit. My understanding is in the room, he is the leader of the team. He is the guy who is essentially detailing how they're going to play, what they're going to do, not only in the room and on the ice, but more so on the road, setting up dinners and all that kind of stuff. I've always heard that about Morgan Rielly. He's also he does play with emotion. He's not a big hitter or a fighter, but I do think he gets in the muck a little bit. He yaps. He's emotional to an extent. I think they really miss him, and I think that goes without saying. He's their number one defenseman, but they have every defenseman playing out of position because Morgan Rielly isn't in the lineup, and they have deficiencies even beyond that. But I look at Jake Muzzin. He's a 3 or a 4. Tyson Barrie's been playing more like a 5. Dermott, Hall, Sandin, Liljegren, Morinson, they're third pairing guys on good teams. So at 25 minutes, like tonight, I would have expected if he was in the lineup, Rielly would play maybe 30 tonight.
Yeah.
He might. And you can't rely on it because he's not there.
Ken Hitchcock always used to say, you get into those situations either with injuries or if your team isn't, have the right players in the right spots, you get players scaled up too high. And when they're scaled up too high, they get exposed. They get extended.
Right.
And that's a problem. I'm going to ask you this. And, and it's not something that you have to answer fully today. Think about it, ask it, and carry on. We go back, and I've thought about this, and we talk about Sidney Crosby, and you hear about, how he handles things and everything, right? Why don't we go back? Go back. Pietrangelo, captain of the St. Louis Blues. Ovechkin, Washington Capitals. Crosby, Taves, Dustin Brown. Do I need to keep going back? Mm-hmm. Yzerman.
Yeah, that
everything.
Works. Yeah.
So when you start to think about captains of teams, I start to go back and I'm starting to think back. Start back all the way. You go all the way back. Mario Lemieux, 91, 92, right? Mm-hmm. 93, it was a little bit different with Montreal and the way they were, right? 94, one of the greatest, if not the greatest captain of all time, Messier, right? Then start to go through it. 95, Scott Stevens and Chara. Was it a mistake to have John Tavares be the captain? And you bring it up right now. You think about giving ownership to young players and to players that have been homegrown players. McKinnon's the captain. McDavid's the captain. Bo Horvat's the captain. This is not an indictment. I don't want anybody to think it's on John Tavares, right? I'm talking about organizationally. You want your young players who have come into the organization, right? And these are your guys, and they look around. You don't think Austin Matthews, Morgan Rielly don't look around and go, geez, I'm a Maple Leaf, right? And do they not, is there not something to be discussed? Was John Tavares the right choice to be captain?
Yes, I thought so at the time.
I know you did.
I mean,
I'm trying to use the history now.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And I think it's even more prevalent with a guy like Rielly than it is Matthews, who I think still has a recognition that he's young. Now, I think actually Matthews has handled this better than Tavares has. They're different personalities, but I think Matthews has actually come out of his shell a little bit. He's been ornery at times. He gave it the old next question a couple of nights ago. I'm fine with that. I don't need you to give me some detailed answer all the time. You're not under any obligation to answer every single thing that is posed to you. I'm okay with it, not all the time, but in the moment, if you're genuinely pissed off because of your own play or because of your team's play. But I think Matthews has handled this pretty well. Tavares is who he is. I mean, he's an established personality. He's not a guy that's going to yell and scream, be a rah-rah type of guy. I do think, looking back on it now, Morgan Rielly in particular, because he didn't have a great year. Now he's outside of the room. I don't remember too many sound bites out of him between the announcement that Tavares was going to be the captain and when he got injured. Like, I know he would speak daily, but he used to be a guy who would give you really detailed answers and I think appreciated the spotlight. I remember having him on a couple of years ago, interviewing him, and went out of his way. They were playing well at the time. They had won a few games on the road. They had a good road trip. And what stood out to me was, he said, I couldn't wait to get home and play here because we're playing well. And that rang true to me as a guy that just loved being a Maple Leaf. Remember the reaction of his dad at the draft.
Yeah, Andy.
grew up, lived in Vancouver, but his dad, huge Leaf fan, ecstatic that they took him 5th overall. And I think Morgan Rielly has always represented this team well, this city well. I think he's loved being a Leaf. And I wouldn't be surprised. It never came out, and I wouldn't expect him to show his colors. But if he was a little bit thrown off by not necessarily not getting the captaincy, but it going to Tavares as opposed to Matthews because of what you detailed. Not that he doesn't respect John Tavares.
Totally agree.
But because it's like, wait a minute, I've been here grinding, we've been here trying to represent the crest and the city, et cetera. And maybe it was on Tavares. Now, that's a lot. I don't know if it's fair to put that on him, but maybe Tavares should have been like, guys, Dubas, Babcock, and I think it was Babcock that was really driving it, which also might bring it into question because he's not even here anymore. But maybe it would have been better if Tavares just said, put an A on my jersey. I'm going to lead, guys. Don't worry about me. I'm going to continue to do everything I've done. But I don't think it's right for me to take this responsibility on from a guy who's been here since day one.
Well, John Tavares, when he was named the captain of the New York Islanders, so that young guy being given ownership of the team, I don't need fire and brimstone from a captain. I don't need I'm just asking from an ownership point of view. I'm talking about players taking ownership. This is my team. How you point out about Morgan Rielly. This is my team. I think there's way too many. I think there's overwhelming evidence that John Tavares was the wrong choice to be captain. And it has nothing to do with his leadership or his personality or what he is as a player or what he is as a person. I'm talking about as an organization and saying to those players, you own the team, you're the guys.
The message being sent. Yeah. Well, I mean, they had gone about it in the proper fashion, too, I believe, because they didn't jump right back in. After they traded for enough, they let it sit for a couple of years.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with patience. There's nothing wrong with...
I don't quibble with that.
No, making a determination when the time is right. But even with all that being the case, and that being said, I still felt like they almost got peer pressured into it to an extent as well. And partially that's media driven. There's no denying that. You get posed the question all the time. When are you going to announce a captain? Who's going to be the captain? It's a source of debate in the city. A positive one. I mean, there's nothing negative about it. They had good options. I think it was always going to come down to Rielly, Matthews, or Tavares. But I do think the Babcock element of it all factors in, too. Like, I think he was driving home John Tavares. Driving home. And I don't know what that was a bit of a disconnect there as well, because Shanahan and Dubas, they have treated Rielly well. They treated Matthews well. They gave Matthews everything. They realized the significance of him coming aboard. And I'm not sure how they came to that conclusion or how Mike Babcock won that battle. Well, I believe he did. I think he was the one fighting. But you win a battle,
but going through it with, and like I said, looking at all the evidence around you, and you look at all these teams and where we are, in sports with young players, being given the mantle. Right? I mean, that's just the trend. It's not like this is rare. This is what happens now. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you're dealing with human beings, right? Yeah. You're dealing with emotion. You're dealing with expectation. I don't know if Matthews, dreamed of being a captain of a team. I don't know. I mean, I've never heard him necessarily talk about it. I feel like Rielly probably thought about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know.
And I feel like the reaction may have been like Tavares has been a captain, is a captain material. Again, we can't clarify that enough. Don't start sending in messages. Why are you hating on Tavares? It's not about Tavares.
No.
Tavares was a captain. He was the right choice in New York because of everything you've detailed about the process and how he got there. But I do wonder, and I'd love to know, I wish I was a fly on the wall, the reaction in the room when the news started to filter through. And I feel like if it was Rielly, it would have been just a celebration, adulation, because of who I believe he is in that room and to all the players. I guess we'll never know.
Well, maybe what we need, Open Gym, which was nominated, right?
Yes. Yeah.
maybe what we should have is, the behind the closed doors on what went into the decision to name the captain.
Well, I spotlighted the captain when we went through our list in the 4 p.m. hour. I know you included him as well. For me, he's number one.
Yeah, but totally right with you.
Because if you are the captain. And I didn't think John Tavares played well a couple of nights ago. I definitely didn't think he played well in Buffalo. And I think he's got more on the line and at stake right now, just simply because of a timeline, because of his age. He's 29. Matthews is 22. Marner's 22. Nylander's 23. He's got to get, like, if they miss the playoffs, what a waste for John Tavares. And he'll probably see his former team back in, and they might do some damage. That's a tough explanation, man.
Well, it's a tough explanation, and then you do that examination of where you're at in your career with all the questions that have to be asked over a summer. That's not showing up, and September can't be far enough away, and it can't be soon enough when you miss the playoffs like that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even want to think about coming back, but then you're excited again. But it would be very, very fascinating, because the questions are going to be, if they don't make the playoffs, questions are going to be simply like, is this the core that can get you there? It's not going to be, is Alex Kerfoot the right guy to be your third line center?
Right.
It's going to be,
front
is this
center the big boys.
Is this going to be, and so when you talked about, and that's why I said the five of them, and whether they're 1 or 5, I'll put them all in a tie for 1. Show me what you got.